Hi everyone, how are you doing? So we are going to talk about regulate to receive today. And if you are here watching this video, let me know in comments where you are joining from. I know I have people from all over the world that follow me. Thank you. I'm so grateful and so happy to have so many connections from all across the world. I'm in Suffolk here in the UK on the coast. It is freezing here today. I have my fur on. And we're going to talk about regulate to receive. So the journey to nervous system regulation, the journey to personal power, the journey to receiving abundance is all one of the same. So school time, I'm going to do a quick lesson about trauma. So trauma, even those little t traumas. So I would say most of us on the planet have at least had a little t trauma. What is a trauma? What is happening in the body? And why is it important that we regulate the nervous system? So, a trauma that is stored in the body is basically just, I say just, obviously it's the impacts are far reaching, but it is just a unclosed fight or flight response. So this is why we can carry so much trauma from childhood, because those are the moments where a lot of us were not able, unless we're really consciously parented, and thank you, a lot of my clients are very, very conscious parents. So thank you to all the conscious parents out there who are parenting in this way. But for a lot of us, we were not. And when trauma goes into the body, it is basically because a trauma loop could not be completed. So what is this? So something happens that makes us feel unsafe, that triggers our fight or flight response, triggers the adrenaline to rush in and start to fuel our muscles to get us ready to run, to get us ready to fight. And our bodies, and we know our brains are caveman brains, right? Our brains haven't really, we would think that our brains would have evolved more by now to know that unless there is actually a tiger attacking us, we are not in physical danger. But our brains have not evolved in this way. So when we have this stressful situation, the brain thinks that it is in danger and it gets us ready to fight or run away. Now, if we can fight or run away in that situation, and a fight might be punching some pillows, stomping our feet, doesn't have to mean a literal fight, but that's what our body is getting us ready for. Or running away, we might go for a brisk walk, we might be able to run, we might be able to shake our body, right? That's what birds do. If you see birds having a fight, they then come away, shake it off, they do the somatic work. Birds doing somatic work, they do. They shake it off, they come into regulation again. But for so many of us who were not consciously parented, and a big heartfelt thank you for those of you doing conscious parenting. I want you to know how much I see you and I appreciate you for the work that you are doing to heal intergenerational trauma by your conscious parenting and the work on yourself. This is part of conscious parenting, right? Is the work on yourself, healing your own trauma, and it is the conscious parenting of children and allowing them to release their emotions in a healthy way. So a lot of this stuff happens in childhood because we cannot close the trauma loop. So how many of us were told, good girls don't get angry, Good girls don't have tantrums, or maybe bribed with something like, do you want an ice cream? You better stop having that tantrum then. So our bodies are naturally doing what we want to do, like what we need to do to close that trauma loop. But we're not always able to do that. And this is then when trauma gets stored in the body, when it can't release through a fight or a flight response. That is simply it. So as we regulate the nervous system, what does this word actually mean? Because this is thrown around a lot like a buzzword. But what does this actually mean? Like in terms of the body, in terms of the brain, in terms of the research. What it means is closing the trauma loop, or trauma loops, because there could be potentially many of them. We are simply closing the trauma loop by giving the body the chance to fight or flight. And this information in this realm, in my community, in my world, this information is there. Out in a randomly selected pocket of the population, this information is not out there. How do I have evidence of this? Because I went to a physiotherapist a while ago and I told her I did somatic practices. She didn't A, know what somatic practices were, B, didn't know what trauma loops were, and then C, proceeded to tell me that maybe it would be better for my body if I just focused on relaxation. And I didn't argue with her because it wasn't worth fighting it. The NHS are never going to listen to what I have to say. I've tried many times. I've offered free training to my doctor's surgery, to nurses. That is not a route I'm going to go down again. That is a long story. However, when I go out into the 3D matrix and do these things, what I see is this information is not out there. So this is also the reason why I offer a scholarship every year on my spiritual coach program, to get these resources and tools out into the communities. Because I know in this community, I know you lot understand nervous system regulation and what that actually means, which is basically just closing that trauma loop. So this is where somatic practices come in, because what somatic practices do is they close trauma loops. Why do they close trauma loops? Because that trauma that is held in the body is able to release through a somatic practice. So a somatic practice, which is working with the body, working with the soma, is removing the trauma from the body. So talking about a trauma doesn't remove it. Doing subconscious work is amazing and can get to the root cause, which is super, super, super important. And at the same time as doing subconscious work, doing shadow work, we need to actually remove it from the body as well, okay? So this is what somatic practices are for. And in the spiritual coach program, we're going to be doing breath work. We do breath work in the Quantum Queen membership every 6 weeks at the moment as well. And this is for that reason, because somatic practices are so needed, and they are completely transformative. So I want to go a little bit geeky now and talk about the dorsal vagal ladder. So the dorsal vagal ladder, what is this? It is the ladder. I'm going to draw you a ladder, because why not? Treat us to a ladder, okay? It is the ladder to nervous system regulation. So down here is dysregulation, and up here is a regulated state. But what we cannot do with any ladder, what we cannot do, unless we're superhuman and we can fly, we cannot jump from the bottom of the ladder to the top. We can't say, I am going to regulate my nervous system now. Let's go. Okay? We can set that intention. I've just got pen ink all over my finger. We can set that intention. This year I'm going to focus on regulation, in which case you need to focus on somatic practices. We need to move up the ladder. So what are the stages of the ladder? So if we're at the bottom of the ladder, the complete bottom of the ladder would be the freeze state. Then we've got the flight state. So you might even see this like in an animal. Let's say you're out walking, you see a deer, and it might freeze, hiding in the bushes, hoping that you won't see it. And then it might realise what is happening, and it might run away. Very rare with a deer. I think it would fight. I don't think it would, that's probably a whole other conversation entirely. Anyway, so we've got freeze, flight, fight, and then we've got regulation. And we have to move through those steps to get to the regulated state. So the traumas are held in the body, so it's at the bottom of the ladder. We then need to be able to flight, fight, and then regulate it. So the journey up this ladder, or for those of you that saw my bridge method in the free workshop that I ran, Flow, Power and Truth, or the bridge, you can look at it as a bridge or a ladder. I'm not precious. But the technical term is the dorsal vagal ladder, but we can also see it as a bridge. Okay? So we have to move through the stages up the ladder, cross the bridge, to get to that point of regulation, which is the same journey to personal power, which is the same journey to receiving abundance. So in the journey to personal power, we move from that freeze state where we're just unaware of the power dynamics. We move into flight, where we start to, so early on in this journey to personal power, we will start to remove ourselves from situations that are no longer for our highest good. We might cut people out of our lives. We might set boundaries. We might leave events early. We might not even go to events, okay? And when you start to do this, you're stepping into the flight mode. You're allowing your body to flight. This was a huge part of my journey. This was actually like, this situation feels uncomfortable, rather than feeling like I have to fix something in myself. I have to fix myself, change myself so that this environment suits me. London was a great example of this. Like, being in the rat race, working in the hustle bustle of London. For many years, actually, I said I must need to fix something in myself so that I can do this with ease, because there's all these people around me on the surface who appeared to be doing the rat race with ease. Well, they can do this with ease. They can go to the pub after work with ease after a whole day in London. They can have a weekend with ease after going into London. Whereas if I work in London, I don't get to have a weekend because I'm then in bed all weekend, okay? So I was in freeze response with that, and looking for something to change myself to try and fit in, right? That in itself is a freeze response, because it's like, oh, maybe if I change here, I might blend in with the environment here, or maybe if I change here, or maybe if I change here, okay? It's like a deer going into the bushes. Maybe if I change enough, I might just fit in. And for me, that was badged as healing. That was badged as personal development. That was badged as therapy, okay? But that was simply just freeze. Because it was the environment. It is society that is broken. It is society that is broken, not you, okay? So we then move into flight. So I allowed myself to flight from London. Literally some days I would work there until about 2 o'clock, and then I'd be like, this is too much for my body now. I'm going to allow myself to get the train home now. Or I would just not go in that day, just work from home. Or I would, because I've always been super quick at manifesting, I would go, yeah, I'm not feeling it today, and I'd get to the train station and the train would be cancelled, okay? So things like this would happen whether I intended them to or not. So I allowed myself to flight. Same with events. If an event felt dysregulating for me, I would allow myself to flight from it and to leave early. And that was huge for me because I was always trying to fix myself so I fitted in with something rather than seeing myself for who I was and what I actually needed to regulate, okay? So, freeze, which can also be badged as surrender in the spiritual community. Just leave it up to God. Let's just surrender. But that is actually sometimes just a freeze state, okay? There's a difference between divine surrender and freeze masked as surrender. So, freeze, flight, fight. Now, fight was the stage for me when I was going through the big sort of chunk of my regulation journey. Fight was the one, ironically, that I fought. Fight was the one I fought, and there were shadows that I had to work through, and I see this a lot in my clients. You've been through the inner child journey, you've done the inner child work, you've set the boundaries, you know how to set the boundaries now, you're starting to know who you are. You know that you need a gentler, more nourishing way to live your life. You know that you want to run your business from that space of regulation and ease. But then what comes is the work on the inner teen. So something that we've been working through a lot recently with my clients is inner teen work. And this was that fight stage of regulation for me, because it was at my inner teen stage that shadow, that anger shadow had been created. Good girls don't get angry. This is not acceptable. You cannot have these feelings. You cannot have these emotions. That is not acceptable. That is not what good girls do. Good girls don't have rage, okay? And I fought, ironically, the fight stage of nervous system regulation so much because my body so badly wanted to fight it out of me, but I wouldn't let it because that was bad. So one of the quickest ways I got to regulation, that I healed my trauma and I shifted my whole reality, was allowing sacred rage. Allowing sacred rage, allowing myself even just 5 minutes every day to do a somatic practice to release any anger from my body. And the more I gave space for the rage, for the anger, and channeled it in a healthy way into a somatic practice, the quicker I moved into that space of regulation, the quicker I moved through that fight space. And also because I was channeling that rage and anger into something productive, it didn't affect those around me. So I was having less, because when I was going through this stage, the more I tried to like push this down and say good girls don't get angry, the more I found myself getting angry, and getting angry with, so there's a strange noise, I don't know what it is, the more I found myself getting angry with others as well, okay? So the more I channeled, even just 5 minutes a day, I gave 5 minutes a day to doing somatic work, and this changed everything. And then when we move up this ladder, so freeze, flight, fight, we then move into the space of regulation, which is also the space of personal power. So this is a space of just ease, of just flow, of just knowing our power, knowing our boundaries, knowing our body truth, and following through on that. It is this silent power where we are grounded. we are grounded, we're in flow, and we have that silent power. We don't even need to say anything when we're in this place, because this energy just commands respect from others. This energy speaks to confidence, visibility, alignment, and we don't need to do anything when we're in this space other than listen to our body and follow that thing. And this, for me, moving up this ladder and doing this work, this for me has meant that I have shortened my process of emotional dysregulation to regulation. It used to be days, and now it is like half an hour. Okay, so I can feel when I need to do some somatic work. I can do the somatic work, have the space for that, and then move into the space of regulation. And when we move into this space of regulation and this space of silent power, we are vibrating at that highest frequency of authenticity, because we are allowing it all, the rage, the anger, the joy, the sadness, the grief. We are allowing it all, and we're moving through it all, and we start to vibrate at the energy of authenticity. And authenticity is a higher, they've proven this in science, authenticity is a higher vibration than love. So by working through regulation practices, by allowing all emotions and using them in an emotionally intelligent way, we are simply expressing authenticity. And when we get into the energy of authenticity, we can receive, whether that is love, whether that is abundance. Because there is a connection, and there is a link between feeling stable, safe and grounded and our ability to receive. Okay? So this is why nervous system regulation is so important. And this forms the roots, and my trauma-informed coaching, this forms the roots of the Spiritual Coach program. We're going to be doing breath work in there, and I'm going to be teaching you practices that you can use with your own clients, which focus on neuroscience, shadow work, energy clearing. And it is the only certification that brings you back to your authentic truth. So what we're doing with this program is we are connecting you to your soul's work. I am not training you to be another me. I'm not training you to be another Lucinda down the road. I don't know why I said Lucinda. That's a name I've not heard for years. What we are doing in this program is anchoring you back to your authentic truth, bringing in your gifts, your skills, your design, and looking at where you can have the most impact as your most authentic, abundant self in the world, to create that business and life that fits around your authenticity, your sensitivities, your family. This is the reason for me creating the Spiritual Coach program. And you're also going to learn coaching skills. The coaching module is out of this world, because I went through many years of very intense coach training with the ICF, and you are getting about £9,000 worth of coach training in this program that I have been through myself. So I'm so excited. The women that have become accredited over the last couple of years have gone on to do amazing work with this program. And as I shared, there is a 50% scholarship for someone that is willing to take these tools out into the community. So my only ask in return for this 50% scholarship is that you feel you can take this work out into communities. That is it, okay? No judgment, online, offline, communities. The main measure is impact, and my expectation in return is for that impact to be evidenced back. So I know those tools are going out there, and I will be here to mentor you and coach you and sign you off with using the tools. I will be here to supervise you every step of the way. So if that feels like that's calling you, I'll pop the link to the programme in comments. There is only one scholarship spot and applications are coming in. So please get in quick if you would like to apply for that. Early bird closes on the 13th of January. And if anyone has any questions, pop them in comments and I can come back and answer them. Sending you wishes for a very regulated rest of your 2025. Lots of love.